There's nothing quite like having tea on a rainy day. Hey guys, what's up? Today I'll be constructing and painting my own ukulele. So I bought this kit in Paris and it was only about 40 euros only. And I have been super excited to paint this ever since. I have just been not doing this video yet because I've been trying to figure out like what do I paint on it? So I've been just thinking about design ideas, and I think I'm going to do something that is a sort of call to Paris. I love Paris, and I love the painting aesthetic of a lot of what people make, like Paris watercolor paintings and things like that. So I found a reference picture online that I'm gonna try to follow a little bit. Here's the picture. It's really pretty. I love pink and Paris. I have a painting that I also made. It also is pink, sunset, Paris. And I think that's what I'm gonna go for. The kit comes with everything that you need, but it starts you completely from scratch. So you have to do a lot of constructing. In order to make sure that when I paint it, it looks okay and has a protective finish, I have a varnish that I just bought, as well as an acrylic primer. So I'm gonna be using both of these to help the wood and just make sure that whatever I paint, it stays protected and on it and can last for a long time. Let's get into it. So as you can see, I'm unpacking the box. It has the body of the guitar, the neck and headstock, a fretboard, bridge, saddle, nut that goes at the top of the guitar, screw covers, fixing rings, which you'll see later go inside the holes at the top, for tuning heads, screws for the bridge, screws for the tuning heads, and a bunch of strings, and some super cheap glue. Originally, I tried to use the glue, as you'll see, but it was really bad glue. So, as you can see with this painting, I'm just laying the foundation of colors. I really love pastel colors in general, and I love Paris. I think I definitely have romanticized it in the past, but when I actually did visit it this past summer, it was just beautiful. In fact, you can check out a song that I wrote about Paris in Spotify. And so I'm just painting this way. I like paint. I like adding purple, pink stuff. I had to redo the sky a little bit because it was getting a bit muddy. But overall, I was really happy with the outcome. I used to do a lot more painting actually when I was in high school. I would follow those Bob Ross tutorials. I love doing landscapes and shied away from drawing people. But once I started doing my web comic, which you can also find in the description below, I started to conquer my fear of drawing people and working on anatomy more. So for this, I decided to stick with my strengths and draw something really beautiful. There it is. After some finishing touches, I decided to add a watered down burnt sienna base for the neck and the rest of the guitar, the sides. I didn't want to go too over the top with painting extra detailed stuff on the back or on the sides, and I wanted to go with a more traditional look. So I actually copied my classical guitar, Annabelle, and that's why I have, after the burnt sienna and burnt umber, I added some black strokes with a rougher brush so that I could emulate the look of the guitar. Let's have past Gabrielle explain.
Alright, paint's still a little wet, but I'm really happy with the outcome. It looks kind of like my classical guitar, kind of like that. There we go. So now I'm going to let the paint dry, and then I'm going to add a varnish to it to make sure that it keeps the paint protected.
What past Gabrielle didn't realize is that this is also very strong odor-wise. And so, yeah, I did it in my room. I don't really recommend that because afterwards I had to wear a mask and open all the windows, and I just left everything open for an hour while I did homework outside because it just was very strong smelling. Anyway, so after waiting for about an hour, I used the really cheap glue to try to put the fretboard on the neck, and I didn't have any clamps like it suggested. So instead I used some binder clips and my hair ties, and I thought, oh, that's cool, it kind of works. And it did kind of work. It just took a while to get it situated properly so that the fretboard would actually dry properly, and I held onto it for a while.
It's 4:35 in the morning, and we're having some nice ramen. It was good.
So after letting that dry, I found that no, it didn't work super well, and the fretboard didn't quite dry the way that I wanted it to.
I'm trying to ever so slightly move this because it's going more curving up. And this is relatively flat, so this is the problem. But I do not want to break this. This would be very bad to break.
So I didn't show this next part, but I went out and bought some Gorilla Glue and used that instead, and that worked wonders. It worked really well. And I did have to let it dry for a while, but I was able to get a capo, which worked perfectly as a clamp. So there you go. This is how it looks without any strings or anything on, just putting the main body together. It's funny how paint can really make a big difference. Taking this from a pale, cheap-looking ukulele to something that I'm proud of, that looks really nice, and I would go out and buy. The next step is to add the tuning heads with the screws that were given.
So I'm gonna just do this part first, and then I'm gonna attach them again.
So yeah, I purposely pulled that off because it just kept coming off as I was trying to screw these top parts.
Got 2 done. 2 more to go.
What I didn't know before doing this project was that these screws are specifically made so that you don't need a drill. You just screw directly into the wood, and it worked really well.
Okay, so as you can see, there is one fixing ring here on this. I was really struggling for a second because the instructions have these really thin fixing rings that they show, but in actuality, like, the pieces are like this, and you're supposed to fit this side into the holes that are already existing. However, because this is kind of poor quality, the holes are not big enough. And I was already struggling with getting enough space to fit these pieces in, and so now it's a little bit of a struggle to push this in, but I'm gonna try.
So as you can see here, I am adding dots, similarly to my classical guitar, for reference, on the 5th, 7th, and 12th fret. I also painted the fixing rings because they looked really cheap, plastic looking. I thought it'd be cooler to have a metallic look.
They look like metallic Cheerios. This is what it looks like with the painted metal version, and I think it definitely looks better than having this plastic look to it. Unfortunately, because the holes aren't really big enough, I can't quite put all of them in. So I'm gonna take a second and try to make these holes bigger so I can actually put these pieces inside properly.
In order to do this, I had to remove the tuning heads I already put.
It's like almost there. It's almost there. Come on.
In order to put the fixing rings in the holes, I had to kind of stab the hole with a screwdriver a bunch of times to clear up the hole.
This video is brought to you by long sleeves. Yay, look at that, they're done. Oops, one more left. We're done, and it looks really nice. I'm very glad that I took the extra time to paint it, clean the holes, and I had to take all these off again, but that's all right.
Next up is adding the strings. So the instructions, of course, did not tell me which strings were meant for what. There were no labels. But the good thing is, each string is slightly thicker or thinner than the other. And because of the way that ukuleles are tuned, which is G, C, E, A, that thing, then the C is going to be the thickest, E is thinner, G thinner, and A the thinnest. So luckily I was able to use that and then know how to string it up. So here I'm wrapping the strings at the bottom, at the bridge, And I actually do have a classical guitar video about how to string your guitar, which I will post eventually as well. And then after that, you just wrap it through and then tune it up. Also, in case you've been wondering for the duration of the video, I'm currently sick right now, so my voiceover sounds gravelly.
The tension from the strings is actually pulled off the neck with the Gorilla Glue. No! Well, that's certainly one way to play.
Making this ukulele took a bit longer than I expected, partly because I have to go rent out the camera that I'm using only in certain times, so that took me a second, and also just letting everything dry and then fixing problems that I had along the way, such as what you just saw, the neck was going all wonky. So I had to let that dry again, but I didn't have a clamp, so I had to figure out some ways to put pressure on keeping those different parts together, the body and the neck. So I put something heavy on top and laid it down, face down on my desk, and let it dry for our day, and that did the trick. But overall, I think it's really good to do projects like this because you have more appreciation of the people who actually do make these things. There's also something special about making something from scratch.
I was scared of dentists and the dark. I was scared of pretty girls and starting conversations. Now all my friends are turning green. You're the magician's assistant in this dream. It got out of tune by the end of the song. But there we have it. My ukulele is all done. I'm very happy with how it turned out, despite all of the struggles that I had along the way. One issue I'm already having, I noticed, is that when I'm pressing down here on the first fret, I think it's the string is so close to the fretboard that it causes a lot of buzzing. So when the string is vibrating, it's like hitting the other frets. So also, as you can see, the strings on the fretboard are not perfectly lined up. It gets a little wonky down here, but all in all, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like the wood part, it looks pretty similar to my classical guitar. So all in all, I'm very happy with this, and now I have a ukulele and I can practice. Thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have any ideas for videos, feel free to let me know. Thanks, and have a good one.